I'm not just having a midlife crisis. Shirts are not just my midlife crisis. Hi guys, welcome to Phil's Corner episode 16, the final episode of 2020. And I'll start by saying thank you so much to everyone who's watched a Phil's Corner video this year. It's been such a fun year. I basically started this YouTube channel as a bit of a passion project just to share my love for shirts, and your support has meant the world to me. Not only have you guys been watching here on YouTube, but some of you have even been supporting on Patreon as well. And I've talked a bit about Patreon in previous episodes, but do check out my Patreon at the link in the description if you're interested in supporting me more and chatting to me more about shirts. But as I say, thank you for this year. I'm really looking forward to 2021. There'll certainly be a lot more videos, and I've got some ideas for content which should be really fun. So I'm looking forward already to seeing you then. But in today's episode, I'm going to be wrapping up the year, showing you firsthand my favourite shirts of the year. I've got 9 shirts released this year, which I'm going to show you in detail. I'll also be answering some comments, as I have been doing, from you guys from the last video. But before I get to that, thank you to Fanatics, my sponsors for today's video. And Fanatics, if you don't know already, are a fantastic retailer based in Brazil who I've been partnering with for a number of months. And they do such a good range of shirts. Many shirts you can't get here in the UK from anywhere else. So if you're a UK collector or based in Europe or anywhere else in the world, Fanatics are a great place to go for Brazilian club shirts. And of course, as we start to get some of the new shirts for South America coming up very soon in the next couple of months, when South American club shirts are usually released, Fanatics will be a great destination to go to. So do check them out in the link in the description. And I'll be talking a lot more about them in the coming months. I'll be running regular giveaways on Twitter, and if you know me on Twitter, you know I love to run a good giveaway. So there'll be loads from Fanatics there as well. So thank you to them for supporting this video and indeed many previous videos. As we usually do here at Phil's Corner, I'm now going to answer some of your comments from the last episode. We'll start with Adam, and this one made me smile. He said, "Love the video, but I can't tell if you're 43 or 24. And really, Adam, just to say, if I look 43, clearly talking about shirts actually does age you quite a lot. I'm certainly closer to 24 than 43. But yeah, appreciate the comments like that. And actually, guys, if you do have any comments, not necessarily how old I am, but anything to do with stuff outside of shirts, that's always welcome. I enjoy reading comments that aren't about shirts. But yeah, I had to address that one. Just to clarify that I'm not just having a midlife crisis. Shirts are not just my midlife crisis. I've not quite reached that life stage yet. Rammer's Tube says, "Another great video, Phil, and thank you to you." And he goes on to say, "What do you think about the new AC Milan away shirt? It's inspired by the Museum of Culture in Milan." And I really like this one, Rammers. Actually, the Milan away shirt is, I think, a bit of an underrated shirt. I don't see a lot of people talking about it. I really like the inspiration. I think you can see a very clear link from the source of inspiration, from the look of the museum. And even though the pattern, it's quite kind of clunky, you know, it's not particularly refined, but I do like the overall aesthetic. It's really grown on me. So it's one of those shirts I'll probably look out for myself at the kind of end of season sales if it gets that far. And there's still some available for kind of 30 quid or less. It certainly would be one on my radar. So good shout from you, Rammers. And let me know if you've got that shirt, or if anyone else has that shirt in your collection. Nathan Stevens has a comment here saying, "Love collecting shirts with names on the back. Only just started my collection." He's got a PSG shirt with Di Maria, Juve and Ronaldo, Royce on the back of a Dortmund kit. And he says, "I try to stop myself from buying the £20 shirts of classic football shirts and save for one I really want, but still has to stop me from placing 9 orders." So Nathan, definitely relate to that. I'm sure everyone actually who's watching this can relate to what you're saying there. But I think also, as I've said on a few different videos in terms of the styles of collecting or the methods of collecting, I do quite like that approach where you're not necessarily just grabbing those £20 bargains. Don't get me wrong, classic football shirts and other sites like that have some amazing deals. And if you're after just a bulk of shirts, a variety of cheap shirts, there's so much out there. But I do like that approach of sort of saying, instead of buying 5 £20 shirts, I'll buy a £100 shirt. And actually, if you are looking to spend something like that, you can get some really good shirts, some really good vintage shirts, shirts from the 90s even, that are in excellent condition and are quite rare for £100. It can go a long way. And if you want to find out more about that, I did of course do a video. I've done a couple of videos of course about buying shirts. One looking at shirts on a budget, and another video looking at holy grail shirts, those shirts which are considered top tier and are usually 3 figures. So do check those videos out if you haven't already. And yeah, thanks for sharing that, Nathan. As I say, we can all relate to what you're saying there. And certainly the 9 shirts I've got here, many were impulse purchases. So I can certainly relate to what you're going through. We've got a really interesting comment here from Paul, who says, you mentioned you support Liverpool. So I want to know, have you ever owned a Man United shirt as a collector? And if so, have you ever worn one? And if not, would you? And Paul also goes on to say that he loves the channel. Thank you so much, Paul. And also that you've had a great experience on Twitter and the community has been great and friendly. So firstly, before I get onto United, that is great to hear, Paul. And I would say, and I've said it before, the community on Twitter is great. There's a wide range of people, and I really enjoy the experience of being on Twitter. In terms of United shirts, it's a great question because I would potentially collect United shirts. I wouldn't go out of my way to buy them, and there's certainly not a team on my radar in terms of end of year sales or things like that. Having said that, if a really good United shirt came up for a great price, I would consider it. Would I wear it? I wouldn't wear it. No, I don't think there would be an occasion where I'd wear it unless it was a specific United event or something like that. And I did once actually, quite funnily enough, wear a United shirt for a review of their home shirt a couple of years ago for work. And I got a bit of stick from my colleagues at the time. But it was for work. And I mean, if you're going to pay me to do something, I'd do it. There's not too much shame in there for me. But yeah, it's a great question, Paul. And it'd be really interesting actually to hear your guys' opinions on that. Whether you absolutely detest rival shirts or whether you collect them and even wear them. I'd love to know which kind of place in the spectrum you fall on. But thanks for your question, Paul. And as I say, it's great to hear about your positive experience on Twitter. That's really encouraging to hear. And finally, we've got a comment from Phoenix who says, is it still a good investment if I buy a 2020-21 official shirt? Do you think after 5 years the price will increase? Now, Phoenix, there's a few elements to your question here. Broadly speaking, the first thing to say is that you should only ever buy official shirts if you're actually concerned about value, because fake shirts hold no value. They are worth absolutely nothing if you try to sell them on. And if you do try to sell them on, you're breaking the law in many ways, let alone the fact you bought the fake shirt in the first place. So it's good that you mentioned official shirts because that is the first point to mention. Now, will the price increase? It's an interesting question. The market has really changed a lot in the past 5-10 years, and now actually you do have to think a bit more wisely about which shirts you're going to buy if you are thinking about value. Now, most collectors I know don't necessarily buy with a view to sell on, and that makes a lot of sense. You know, they buy to keep, they buy because they actually want to keep those shirts as a collection and maybe get kind of something for a particular team or things like that. But if you are thinking about profit and maximum profit, you do have to look for a couple of things. The first thing is availability. Take the Liverpool home shirt, for example. I think I've used this example in the past actually. If I was to buy Liverpool's home shirt, whilst that has actually been sold out a couple of times in different sizes, particularly for the player issue, it's a relatively available shirt. So the price increase for that is going to be modest, if at all. The trend would be that it would increase, and in 5 years' time, certainly you'd expect to get at least a return on your investment. But having said that, it's a bit of a risky one there because it is so available. There's so many out there. They're available on multiple sites. You're looking at a very slim margin if you're looking at profit. And it's even worse for shirts like England shirts. There's a reason charity shops are filled with old England shirts, simply because there's so many around and people get really excited about major tournaments. They'll buy an England shirt and then just kind of sell it on or give it away to a charity shop. So think about availability. Look, and if you're going to get a shirt and you're looking for a return on profit, look at how available it is. That's the first thing to say. But of course, another key consideration is simply the price you're paying and buying it at the right time. So most of the time, if you're going to buy a shirt, if it's really rare, you need to snap it up quickly. So there are some shirts which are so popular that they sell out within days, within hours even sometimes. And of course, in that situation, it's all about getting in there first, which could be a bit of an experience in itself. But if it's a shirt which is perhaps not going to sell out instantly, and it's going to be available. You can obviously snap them up during sales, and I talk about this a lot. You can snap them up during something like a Black Friday sale or a Christmas sale, an end of year sale. And whilst you're not going to get the rarest shirts in these sales, you can still get really good value shirts. And say something like a player issue shirt, you can get for a great price, something like 20 or 30 quid. And actually in a year's time, that is going to retain quite a bit of value. Maybe not perhaps as much as a really rare shirt, but certainly you're going to maximise your chances of profit, of course, if you're spending less and not paying the retail price. It's an obvious thing to say, but I think it is worth mentioning. And I think just in terms of rarity, it is a bit of a trial and error process. It's very hard to exactly predict what's going to be more valuable. And it's becoming really hard actually to gauge when a shirt's going to sell out. Because to use an example, this year, many people rushed to buy Nigeria's home and away shirts, which are very popular. But actually, because of various reasons, that shirt was still available months after release and was even part of various sales. So it wasn't like 2018 where we saw a rush to get the shirt, although even in 2018 they did restock it. So there's a lot to be said for, I think, being very selective, and the whole process of thinking about shirt value and how much stuff it's going to increase or decrease is quite tricky. I would say it's not really worth it if you're thinking about maximising profit. There's other areas where you can make a lot more money. But for someone like me who quite enjoys moving my shirts on, and I don't always make a big profit or any profit at all when I sell shirts, but I do quite enjoy that process. I would just say look at availability, look at when you're buying the shirt, and yeah, do as much research as you can. It's not an easy process, but it can be quite fun, and I've certainly made some big profits in the past on some shirts which have funded new purchases. So to some that might sound like a vicious cycle, but certainly to me, I really enjoy that process. So it's a good question, Phoenix. That's definitely quite a big subject, something which we could talk more about. But do have fun as you're looking for shirts, and I hope you do make a profit or two in 5 years' time. I almost forgot to say, guys, as well, that I am of course wearing one of the t-shirts from the recent Dortmund SpongeBob SquarePants collaboration. I'll show you a couple of pictures now on screen of the t-shirt I'm wearing, and I actually loved this collaboration. It's a bit out there, to say the least. And who knows, maybe we'll even get a kit that's SpongeBob inspired for Dortmund. But yeah, I really enjoyed this collaboration. It's the kind of thing actually which, you know, it's a bit silly, but I do quite like that crossover of worlds in many ways. We're seeing it a lot, of course. Really, PSG Jordan kind of opened the floodgates to collaborations for big clubs, and some of them aren't as obviously linked as the Jordan one. There was a clear sports connection there, but of course between Dortmund and SpongeBob there's less of a clear link, there's less of a reason. Many people questioned what on earth the two brands were doing, and some people detest the idea of a football club being seen as a brand in the first place, but this is the world we're living in. And I say, certainly when you have stuff like this, I would embrace it fully. If nothing else, just for the smile it puts on my face, just seeing the graphic on this t-shirt. So there you go, guys. I think they're sold out. They might still be available from Dortmund's website. But yeah, if they do a kit, I'll be all over it. I'll be covering it on Twitter and maybe even doing some videos on that. Probably trying to buy it as well if it comes out. So who knows, that could be something to look forward to in the future. But now let's get onto the shirts. I've got 9 shirts, as I say, just next to me. And I don't really want to say too much more as an intro, because really I just want to show you the shirts. I guess as a brief comment before we do go into them, I've really enjoyed this year for shirts. And I think there's been something quite reassuringly normal about shirts this year. In a year which has been anything but normal, we've still had football shirts to enjoy, talking about, to review, to dissect, to pull apart, to criticise, to praise. All those things which you get on a typical year have happened this year. Despite what's happened, there have been some delays, of course, to release dates, and certainly a lot of shirt releases have been accompanied by quite substandard photography, I would say, or certainly some quite uninspiring photography. But it's quite understandable, of course, given what's happened. The fact we've still been able to talk about shirts has been quite a comfort to me, and I think to many others as well. So it's been really good, actually. When I look back on this year and I look at the shirts of this year, the shirts that I'll be showing you, I won't be thinking about COVID. I won't be thinking about all those things. I'll just be enjoying the shirts for what they are. And that's quite reassuring, as I say. It's been quite good. I think it's been a strong year for shirts. I think a lot of brands have done some great things. And, it started, didn't it, at the start of the year with Nike saying they were going to ditch the templates. And even though that wasn't as big of a departure as it sounded, actually that was a positive step forward. And other brands have done great things too. So there's been some great collaborations, and not just big name collaborations, but also some behind the scenes collaborations. And I'll mention one of them in one of the shirts I've got. There's been many good examples from different brands of good shirt design. Shirt design which is interesting, shirt design which causes you to stop and think and consider what's going on here. So it's kept me very busy, and certainly for my collection, I've picked up quite a few of these. I've also been sent 1 or 2 shirts as well, which has been a real blessing. But let's get into the shirts. Let me show you 9 of the best shirts up close and personal. We'll start with what is the latest addition to my collection. That is Marseille's away shirt from this year. I picked this up just last week from a fellow collector on Twitter, and ever since it's been released, I've been looking out for this shirt. I love the design, and you'll all be familiar with it, of course. There's several small houses that make up an all-over pattern on the chest of the shirt and onto the sleeves as well. A couple of things I particularly like. One of them is that deep navy base. I really like that. Marseille, of course, have a great colour palette, and I like it when they go for these sorts of darker colours for their away shirts. It really looks nice with the classic Marseille blue of the details. Simple collar, which is always a big thing in my book. No kind of one button nonsense or anything like that. Replicated in colour on the Puma logo and the crest. That Marseille crest, of course, has some lovely gold details. And there's also various flecks of a kind of gold or almost bronze shade, which are these kind of little windows of the houses. I love that. Really creative idea. Sadly, the pattern doesn't continue on the back. But we do have a really nice detail here, which I hadn't noticed actually before. The embroidered detail of Marseille on the back. So yeah, it's a plain back, as with many modern shirts, but it doesn't take away from the shirt for me. And of course the Uber Eats sponsor, whilst it doesn't add anything to the design, it also doesn't take away too much. It's not too garish, at least it's relatively tasteful in the white. But I really like the shirt, and Marseille shirts in general have been great. I think Marseille's kit history is so strong. One of my favourites in world football. Certainly one of my favourite clubs in French football for shirts. So really good to see. Puma have done some great stuff this year. And actually, when I think about Puma, they are definitely on the rise. I'd say 2020 has been good for their stock. Some of their city-inspired designs have been incredible. Of course, there was the Italy collection, which started in 2019 and ran over into 2020. Various clubs as well got designs, bespoke designs, inspired by their city. So really good stuff from Puma and Marseille. And not a bad way to start our video today. Now, a complete change of pace. Going to Providence City. Now, Providence City have made a big name for themselves in the community as a club who major on creative kit design as a big part of their identity. And they're a non-league team from the States, from the US. And as I say, they've had so many interesting kits. You probably will know their Hammerhead shark design from last year. This one is their donut design. And I believe it's a company in the area called PV Donuts. And you can see them on the sponsor. Of course, the whole shirt is basically designed to look like a donut. How good is that? This is made by Inaria, a great manufacturer who are doing some good things. And they have worked with a couple of pro teams as well as teams like Providence City. Probably the best detail about this shirt is the crest. It's this wonderful combination of a raised plastic application on a kind of almost felt-like base. Just a gorgeous raised crest. Just when you see that up close, you can really enjoy that as a bit of design. But the shirt itself is a lot of fun. Unlike the Marseille shirt, the pattern goes on the back on this one as well, which is great. Look at that secondary colour, that sort of teal colour, which is on some of the sprinkles as well as on the cuffs and on the bottom of the shirt as well. So a really fun entry here. And this is again kind of the other end of the spectrum. These guys aren't played in the Champions League or the Europa League or any of the big leagues in Europe. And yet this shirt is one of the most interesting designs. One of these shirts which anyone who's not even into football shirts can at least appreciate or comment on. And I like that about shirts. I like that a shirt like this is a conversation starter wherever you go, whoever you're with. And I absolutely love this design. As I say, they've also had various other great designs. So do check out Providence City. If you can get hold of one of their shirts, it always elevates a collection. It always stands out in any football shirt collection. So really happy to add this one to my collection. And this is most certainly one of my favourite shirts of 2020. Next up is one of a few Brazilian shirts on this list. And as I mentioned at the start, I've been working a lot with Fanatics over in Brazil. And as part of that, I've received a range of shirts and bought a range of shirts from them. So the Brazilian section of my collection has done quite well in 2020. And this Fluminense goalkeeper shirt kind of went a bit under the radar. Because Umbro in Brazil used one of their famous 90s templates. And you'll recognise this template, I'm sure. Man United actually had this in the 90s. And many other Umbro teams did. What I really love is the way that Umbro used the template. So not only did they very much channel the design, but all the colours, of course, were matching the various teams. And I really like this particular colourway. Fluminense, who have a great colourway for their home shirts, also just generally have a good colour palette. So it really works well on this goalkeeper shirt. There's also some really nice patches and details on this shirt, and I'll show you some close-ups now. And on the back was even a number 1. Which was included in the kit. But yeah, I just love what Umbro do in Brazil. Of course, at the start of Phil's Corner, one of the very first episodes we did was talking about Umbro in Brazil. They've impressed me once again in 2020. And this is also not the only goalkeeper shirt in this list. There was a bit of a mini trend of retro designs on goalkeeper shirts, which we'll get onto as I say. But really like this from Fluminense and Umbro. Another great shirt from this year. Now, any of you who follow Football Shirt Collective on any social media platform will be very familiar with this next shirt, the Venezia away shirt. Now, I mentioned Football Shirt Collective, who I do a lot of work for, because they actually bought in a range of the home shirt and away shirt for Venezia this year and sold them to UK collectors, which was a great opportunity for collectors, and it was a lot of fun just sharing the shirts with UK buyers. And they were really, really good shirts, both the home and away. This is the away. Absolutely gorgeous design. A quintessentially Italian design, isn't it? With the horizontal bands. Think of teams like Sampdoria who do that, of course, on their home shirts. And I love the Venezia colourway. Venezia themselves went through a rebrand not so long ago. And they've been really majoring on aesthetic excellence. Not just through their shirts, but just the way the club and the brand has been portrayed. Taking real care with the photography and the image of the club. One example is the sponsor, or what is replacing the sponsor, which is this fantastic word mark of the club name, fitting perfectly within that black band. The crest is fantastic, and there's also a really nice detail on the back at the top with the VFC there. Just a gorgeous shirt, and as I say, many of you guys got hold of this shirt this year, which was good fun. And there's plans actually to get some more shirts in next year. So look out for that in 2021, which I'll be sharing on my Twitter alongside Football Shirt Collective's account. So look out for those. I just love this design. And in a year which has seen a lot of busy designs, and many of the shirts I'm showing will have quite distinctive standout patterns. Sometimes a simple example of a good colourway applied tastefully to a shirt is effectively all you need. You don't need to have crazy patterns. You don't need to blow people away with an intricate design. Sometimes it's simplicity that works. Something like this Venezia away shirt. Look at that contrast collar as well. I don't always like collars, but I think in this example it adds so much. And I honestly just love that colour combo. One of those colour combos you don't see a lot in shirts. You didn't see enough, I would say, in shirts. So a refreshing design, a clean design, and really worth picking up. I think they are still available. There are some still available, not many, but some from Football Shirt Collective site. So do grab one if you're interested. And a really smart entry there for the best shirts of 2020. We'll jump back to Brazil now, and this shirt is actually one I featured a couple of videos ago. I'm not going to lie to you guys, it's basically on here because of the numbers. And that typeface, again, like I showed you before, is probably my favourite typeface of the year. So I wanted to give this a mention. Just in general, I really love interesting typefaces. And probably my favourite book of the year, actually, my favourite football book, is one which is above me. Just there, you can see it there, Football Type 2, which is a fantastic book. I'd highly recommend that if it's still available. Just a gorgeous study and celebration of football typography. But yeah, I love this shirt. As I say, for the numbers, the shirt design itself is relatively simple, mostly black with red stripes in that kind of artistic, painterly style which Adidas have been majoring on this year. The design of the numbers themselves is almost a story in itself. So much going on with the thick red border and the kind of gradient crosshatch design within the numbers. There's a lovely subliminal flamenco logo as well. Just nice and big. There is also the name on the bottom as well. And flamenco shirts have this great typeface for the names as well this year. But a really good shirt. That one was also from Fanatics. Brazilian shirts really are the way to go, guys. So much fun and interest to be had. And this typeface simply didn't get a lot of love. So I'm really happy to talk about it once again and show you guys what is going on in Brazil, because there's some really, really good stuff. We'll move now from Brazil to Argentina. And I think pound for pound, this has a shot actually at being my favourite shirt of the year. When I first saw this design, and we saw this way back in January, I wasn't so sure. I kind of laughed at the idea actually that you would have the Germany 1990 design with an extended middle bit to fit the sponsor. And yes, I don't love Qatar Airways as a sponsor, but as a design, as an overall shirt, I absolutely love this from Adidas and Boca Juniors. Of course, Boca Juniors themselves had that famous Germany design themselves in the past, so there is a bit of a reason for bringing it back, which I like. But I think it is the fact that you've got such a big yellow section that adds a novelty value to the shirt, it adds a story to the shirt. I think if this was just the classic Germany design, it wouldn't quite stand out as much for me, but having that large yellow section really works. And I was actually really pleased when I bought this shirt and compared it to that Germany design, that little details like the fact that top line in blue is virtually the same thickness as the top line of the Germany shirt. And I'll show you what I mean on screen now. How good is that? Again, it's a very simple design decision, and perhaps it was coincidence, I don't know. But I'd like to think that was deliberate. It certainly looks good compared to the source of inspiration. And just the shirt in general. I love Boca Juniors shirts. Probably my favourite team for shirts in general. Really, really good colour combination, and it works very well. There is a plain back, but you do have a nice detail on the back. And in general, I just really, really like this design. A couple of sleeve sponsors there, and the crest, probably the best crest in world football. But again, just that middle design, that Germany 1990 pattern in a new light, in a different style, a sort of remixed approach, which I think works a bit better than, say, Germany's shirt in 2018, which I didn't mind. Of course, Germany had a terrible World Cup, so that didn't particularly help. And I kind of thought there was something going on with the pattern, but this certainly lands a lot better. Having the colours there works so well, and I love this shirt. As I say, easily one of my favourites of the year. I'm very excited to see how Adidas do in their second stint with Boca Juniors. Of course, this was their debut away shirt in the second stint, so looking forward to next year. Probably will be seeing it in just a few weeks, so very excited to see what they have in store. If it's anything like this, we're going to be in for some real treats. Next up is another Adidas shirt, this time Red Star FC's away shirt. And another standout design from this year, which many of you will recognise. What a pattern. I mean, look at this. There's so much going on here. And I'll show you some close-ups. You can see various almost stories within each of these patterns. You've got various figures from the club's history, and the club has a distinctive culture which is referenced many times over. From a colour perspective, this is really interesting as well. The white base with the various shades of maroon and pinks and reds. They've also recoloured the crest and indeed the Adidas logo and Vice sponsor, which is a cutout design which I really like. I like that you can see the shirt within that sponsor. The funny thing about this shirt is in the Condivo construction, and I didn't particularly like a lot of what I saw with this shirt template or shirt construction, but actually this is a great example of it used well. The fact the pattern goes throughout the sleeves, and even though there is a plain back, that's okay. I think in general the shirt doesn't suffer too much. I really like this approach to shirt design, not the kind of typical shirt you would see. And indeed this was actually a collaboration not just with Adidas, but a design studio based in London called Acid FC. So great to see that. Great to see Adidas working with these third-party design studios. Really, I think that is the way forward for these big brands who have vast portfolios. If you're able to come alongside design studios, wherever they're based, who have a passion for design and shirt design, you can create some really memorable shirts. So I love this. There was also a home variant as well, which is green with the same pattern, and I love both those shirts, but very happy to get hold of the away. It's certainly not one for purists, but I love the design. Really good stuff from Adidas and Red Star FC, and indeed Acid FC as well, who designed the shirt. The penultimate shirt in this video is Bristol City's goalkeeper shirt. And we already featured, of course, Fluminense's goalkeeper shirt, so this is another goalkeeper shirt. Inspired, of course, by a 90s goalkeeper shirt. And I don't need to tell you which, do I? This is, of course, Hummel's famous Denmark design. I say Denmark, it was used for various teams, but Denmark is probably the most famous iteration. What a pattern. I mean, look at the colours there, that rainbow gradient pattern. But it's not just the colours, it's the design as well. These kind of interlocking lines which form various hexagons. And this shirt has so much going for it. Not just, as I say, the Denmark reference, but there's also some really interesting details. We've got some maritime flags which spell out, I believe, Bristol City. I can't remember exactly what they spell out. But there's some really nice symbolism there. The quality of the badges and the applications is great. And fantastically, the pattern goes on the back as well, all the way down to the bottom. There are a couple of sponsors which don't particularly add anything to the design. There is a betting sponsor, which is always a bit of a negative, but love this shirt. Love this shirt from Hummel. Hummel probably my favourite manufacturer. And of course, they've been making real waves in the last couple of years across a number of teams. I actually really love the fact that one of the best shirts is from Bristol City. We're not one of the biggest clubs, of course, in England. We're not even a Premier League club, and yet there's a fantastic shirt here which someone like me would buy. And as I mentioned in my previous comment about buying English team shirts, I wouldn't usually look out for any other English team shirts, but when I saw this, it wouldn't matter who had this shirt. If this was a United shirt or an Everton shirt, I would still be looking to buy it. Of course, Everton do work with Hummel, so that could have been a possibility, but I love this from Bristol City and Hummel. And the pattern, as I say, the design is so gorgeous. I can't really think of a way I would improve the shirt. Perhaps with a better sponsor, that would be the only thing. Because you've even got the chevrons, as Hummel shirts do have, on the sleeves, which is a great touch. So this is really 10 out of 10 stuff from Hummel here. And I believe the shirt sold out not long after release. I snapped this up literally as I saw on Twitter. As I saw it was being released, I knew I had to buy this one. So there are one or two knocking about from other collectors, but they're quite hard to find because I think only Bristol City themselves sold these. So do look out for this if you do like it and snap it up when you can. It's a fantastic shirt, one I'll certainly remember from this year. And as I say, along with Fluminense, a great example of the kind of retro goalkeeper shirt having a bit of a comeback this year. Wonderful shirt from Bristol City and Hummel. We're going to finish the video with another Fluminense shirt, and this is probably the closest rival to Boca Juniors and perhaps Red Star FC as my favourite of 2020. A fantastic design once again from Umbro. This is the third shirt from Fluminense. In many ways, I have to show you the details again on this one, starting with the cuffs. Now, I've talked a lot about Umbro cuffs in the past, and certainly in my video on Umbro for Phil's Corner we talked about that. This year it's exactly the same. The cuffs are one of the best parts of the shirt. Interestingly, these aren't just the double diamonds, but you've also got club specific details within the cuffs. I'll show you a picture as well of another team shirt which has that pattern, so you can see the kind of thing we're talking about there. But it's not just the cuff design. All the different third shirts have these gorgeous colourways. I particularly like this one, this sort of green and vibrant orange shade as a secondary colour. All the crests were slightly retro, so this example is a simplified Fluminense crest with the interlocking letters. There's a really nice pattern, again featuring diamonds across the body. This particular one has a great name set as well. I've got a name and number set. This is all from Fanatics, of course, as well. And they did it for, I think it was literally $3 for the name and number in the official name set. So that was a real bargain, but just wonderful work from Umbro. Many of the shirts that I've talked about have good colourways. It's one of the things I look out for in shirts. When you own a lot of shirts, good colours go a long way. to giving, I think, some sort of value or meaning to having the shirt. You know, if you had 100 red shirts, don't get me wrong, that would be great. And if you're somebody who collects one particular team, you're going to have a lot of similar colours, of course. But I really like something like this. I can't think of many teams that have had this particular colourway, this particular shade of green and orange in a shirt. I almost forgot to mention, actually, there is also the Brazilian league patch, which looks great there. But yeah, love this design from Umbro, particularly because of the way they weaved in various details into the kit in a very tasteful way. This isn't a crazy pattern from Umbro. This is a really well crafted shirt with lots of bespoke detailing, lots of really nice small touches, which when you see the shirt in person you can really enjoy. And that rounds off what I think is a really nice collection of shirts from this year. So there we go, guys, there's a closer look at some of the best shirts of this year. I've not done collecting shirts from 2020, and there are a few I'd like to collect. I'd love to get some of the South Korea shirts, Forward Madison's third kit, the drip kit as it was dubbed. I'd love to get a hold of that. I'm always looking out for Slovenia shirts as well, so that's on my list. But broadly speaking, I've been able to beg, borrow and steal my way to my favourite shirts of this year. And I really hope you enjoyed that look. I'd love to hear which were your favourite shirts this year. Which ones have you bought? Which ones are you looking out for? How do you think this year's been for shirts? How much of a dent did shirts leave in your bank balance this year? I'd love to find out in the comments, so do leave a comment. And there we go, guys. That is our final video, as I've said, of 2020. So a big thank you to you guys for supporting me and for something which basically just started as a bit of a side project. It's been so much fun. So thank you so much. I've said thank you. I'll keep saying thank you to you guys. And I'll take this opportunity as well to say Happy New Year. Happy New Year. We've made it through 2020. 2021, it's not all going to be easy, but I do trust it will be a good time. And certainly in 2021, there's going to be a lot of good shirts to chew on. So I can't wait to chat with you guys about those shirts. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. Before I do go, please subscribe if you are new to the channel or if you've been watching these videos but you've not yet subscribed. As well as all the comments and likes for the videos. Subscribers, of course, go a long way to growing the channel, so please subscribe if you are new. Hit that subscribe button to keep up to date with Phil's Corner episodes, and go and check out all the previous videos. We've covered so much this year. We've covered various teams, various brands. We've talked a lot about collecting, how to start a collection, what sort of shirts to buy, how to buy shirts on a budget. There's a range of different videos, guys, so go and check them out and let me know what are your favourite videos. I'd love to get your input. Many of the topics I've talked about this year have been from you guys, have been suggestions from you or ideas from you that I've then formulated into a video. So do leave any thoughts in the comments and I'll see you in 2021. Take care, guys.